here at long last. It is the next Nono show, this time on Ojamajo Doremi Sharp. It only took us, let's not talk about that, actually, maybe.
What are you talking about? We were just watching it as it came out weekly, right?
Right, like, it aired over the course of the year. We watched it over the course of the year. It wasn't Nath was procrastinating, it was giga-brained play. So, Nono show, it's been a while. So in case you don't know, yeah, every so often we do podcasts on magical girl stuff, because we feel we like magical girl stuff and we want to watch more. So this was kind of an excuse to do more of it. It's not scheduled. So we were thinking on it, we haven't really done that much more of it. But hey, one at a time. And we might find other ways to do this or other things, similar things, but we've talked about it. But you'll see it if when it comes out. But in this case, how we structure these discussions, it says on the whole show, is normally we do a non-spoiler part, then we do a spoiler part. But this is a sequel, so like
I feel like the spoiler-free section would be unnecessary for
right. If you're interested in it, and I think it's a good show, I like this season better than the first season. Then maybe go back and listen to the other Ojamajo Doremi podcast on the first season and see what we had to say there without spoiling it, and then maybe that'll interest you. And if it doesn't, then finish it and then watch this one. Whatever. Maybe that'll interest you, hearing about the spoilers and stuff.
mean, the TLDR is always watch Ojamajo Doremi, you son of a bitch.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, so spoilers from this point on. I'll just be upfront so we can just talk freely. Because I did actually go back and re-listen to that podcast yesterday because I wanted to see what I said, and specifically because there was some things I realized that I could have said last time if I'd realized them. But it ended on that note. Watch Doremi, son of a bitch, and a nice callback. So anyway, I guess what were your overall thoughts on Ojamajo Doremi Sharp?
It's good. I definitely think it was a step up. I think it was overall like more consistent than the first season. There were still it's an episodic series, so there's always going to be like some episodes that are just kind of like, these were okay, these were episodes, and then there's other episodes where it's like, oh my god, it's Galaxy Brain. But it wasn't, like with the first season, I remember going back to our discussion and we had kind of said that like it was like the last stretch of episodes were all like really good. And it's like, well, if the show was more like that, like it was all very like condensed there towards the end. Whereas I felt like the ending for Doremi Sharp, it wasn't as, I don't know, it was a little more, I don't know, I feel like the quality had been like spread out a little more throughout the series, so it didn't feel, it wasn't like that huge gut punch at the end of the season where it's like, wow, they really packed in all these big character development and whatnot episodes, like all packing it into the end. So that was, I guess, one of my takeaways. How about you?
I last time we thought like, I thought there were just good episodes throughout. Maybe not the whole, probably the whole show. Like the ones that maybe cried the hardest were in the first half. But then so we watched how we actually watched the show. Like we made a joke about weekly watching, whatever. How it actually we watched that we averaged like 2 episodes a month until like
until we started Kinnikuman.
Yeah, and then Matthews was like, I don't want to read Kinnikuman, so I'm just gonna watch Doremi, and we've watched like 30 episodes these last 2 months, basically. So yeah, we watched like 20 episodes over the course of like 8 months, and then in these last 2 months, we watched the rest. So I did go back and rewatch 2 episodes for reasons I'll get into later, but aside from those episodes I rewatched, I don't remember a lot of the early ones as well, because like we watched them over half a year ago. Where like, but a lot of the recent ones were like, there were some episodes I didn't care for as much, but there were some good ones too, and a lot of good ones. Like, and I like the last one in particular, or last couple in particular, I thought were good, and I liked it. I overall gave the show a higher score, just an 8 as opposed to a 7. Because I enjoyed it a little bit more, I guess, than last season. So, but where to fucking start? Because I guess because last time we talked about our favorite characters, your favorite was Aiko, but I guess I'll start this time because I was kind of divided because I was like, well, everyone's so dumb and good. Now I think I can pretty firmly say my favorite is Doremi. And part of that is still like the relatable aspect, and I think especially the best parts with Doremi this season were surrounding the movie and the following episodes.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Because the movie, like the movie is like, okay, let's give you another episode of Doremi, but it's gonna be longer and it's gonna be fucking beautiful. Yes. Like we're gonna go up to 11 with this production. Like I mentioned, the show just generally looks really visually consistent. Though there are some like stand episodes, like I re-listening to the last one I mentioned, the Christmas episode in season 1, and in this one it's like the movie, holy shit, it's just like looks really good, lots of great animation, and it's just like impressive production because it's obviously it's a film and it's not super long, so they could just had that dedicated team on it. But as for what happened in the movie, like just don't because like this season didn't have as much pop as season 1, I think. Which was a shame because I did really like Pop, but
yeah,
but in the movie,
I definitely thought it was a very inspired choice to focus on her, and oh my god, it was so good. The way it like by focusing on her, it also gave us a chance to kind of like there was a little bit of backstory to like. More like explaining their dynamic, and so we get a little more focus on Doremi as well through that. And just, fun shenanigans, with it was a very good, it was basically just like an episode of the TV series, but it with like, I don't know, in widescreen.
Yeah. And I guess like Pop comes out, she made a mistake with Hana, which was why Doremi was mad, but like because the whole witch thing kind of flipped their dynamic a little bit, because normally, Doremi is older, but Pop is just way more, talented and capable of things, where Doremi's clumsy and dope, and she did fail a lot through her witch training. But let's put it this way: it's been a year since season 1 ended, and Pop still isn't at the level that Doremi reached. And then Doremi also had her advancements in this season, and So Pop finishes her test. She comes out. She with their little reward, and she's like, Doremi, I like she wants some kind of praise, because like she's never really gotten that from Doremi in the same way, because of like Pop coming towards Doremi's level. But of course, Doremi was mad about Hana. So, and that kind of shift in the dynamic, sort of propelling their conflict, that conflict through the movie and the follow-up episodes, was just really good, and possibly my favorite stuff in the season.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting spin on their dynamic, because Pop is obviously being the little sibling. There's a degree to which there's like, oh, I have to impress, but where generally in the series she is the one who comes off as more competent, and and Doremi, like whenever Doremi is in charge of something or whatever, they're like, oh, but Pop is there, so we know things will be okay.
Right, so Doremi coming up to Pop's level doesn't have the same impact at all, because like that's the given. That's what should be expected, as the older sister. Like, yeah, of course Doremi, has more skill in this area than Pop, because that's just how, her. Like, yeah, she's older, of course. Like, where with Pop being above Doremi, it's like, wow, you're so talented and great. You're so amazing, even though you're younger than Doremi. So, and it's really good. But I guess what's also really striking is I think it was the following episode, or one of the following episodes, the one where Pop actually asked Doremi's mom to play the piano.
Yes, and the direction for that episode was so good.
Well, and what I think, where I think if it hadn't been sold before, where that episode finally sold me on Doremi being my flat out favorite character, was how that episode's Doremi was very, like, it was Doremi, but it was a different Doremi. She was very like relative mature and wise. Like she was acting in a way Doremi usually doesn't get the chance to, because here she's very much Pop senior. She knows what's right. She's failed through this before. She's willing to try again. She's willing to help Pop try for the first time, and it was such a good episode.
It was so good. I really like the juxtaposition where Pop pulls out like the toy piano and Doremi does the magic, and like so that's working. And so there's the shot of Pop like sitting with her mom, and they're like working with the piano, and they're both like smiling, and then it cuts to like the flashback where everything is like in shadow, and it's just, you know, Doremi sitting at the piano, and it's such a good juxtaposition, and that really just like sets the tone for where the episode is going, because it's like, ooh, what's this? It's just very striking imagery, and then yeah, for like the majority of the episode, she's much more reserved. This isn't like the goofy Doremi we're used to seeing. She is able to take that role, and because it's good also because it, you know, provides more context for, you know, because Doremi is, you know, the stupid one who like makes the mistakes, and you know, really like in the first season she was the only one who failed the witch exams, whereas everybody else was able to just pass easily.
Pop never failed them, but she never got the chances because she's a baby. She's sleep. And,
so she was always behind in that respect. But like for Doremi, there's definitely more digging into like the insecurities behind her character, like where that sort of came from. Because, you know...
Right, you mentioned flashback, and there was... Or I think someone said flashback, and there was like... Because, we found out, like... Well, earlier in the season, we found out sort of, like, with Doremi's mom and her history with the piano and how, like, you know, she got injured and she couldn't play the piano, and she kind of pushed that on Doremi. And, like, they've, you know...
Yeah, so that also was really good focus on, like, the parents, too. Because you had the whole arc of, like, the father... He's like, oh, well, because, you know, you sold your piano and you were really upset, but it was, like, to take care of the family or whatever. And he had the whole thing with, like, his fishing rod. And he's like, oh, I'm going to sell this. But, you know, because... And it ends up working out because, like, his conviction for his family... I really like the line where his boss was like, oh, you're going to... You know, that rod is full of youthful memories. It's your most treasured thing, right? And he's like, no, my most treasured thing is my family. And it's like, yeah. And then, of course, he gets rewarded by that too, but because like, he doesn't actually have to sell the rod. So he's able to keep
like,
both.
It all works out well in the end, but they're still willing to make those sacrifices if they need to. Because, you know, with the piano specifically, like, you know, when they got rid of it, it hurt Doremi, and also, it hurt, which, you know, her, like, they were kind of, like, trying to bury that aspect of their history almost, and avoid, which of course hurt Pop, because she thought, oh, maybe mom doesn't love me like she loves Doremi because she didn't try to teach me. Like, she didn't grasp the failure around that, the whole incident, like we saw in the flashback. Doremi like was sort of like, that's like almost her defining sort of incident, is that which we only find out more than halfway through the second season, is she was going to play the piano in a recital. She failed completely and utterly, and well, of course, you know, to cheer her up, they went to go eat steak, and there it is, the legend of Doremi's love for steak was her parents made her feel bad after her parents made her feel good after her failure. Right, and it's just like, I was like, what? I didn't fucking expect that. Like, it's just like a thing that it's been so long of this, like, it was probably episode 1 where she's just like, steaky, and I'm like, yeah, this Doremi likes steak. That's just an integral thing to her character. But now I know why, and it's cool. God. Like,
I also thought it's interesting because there's it still provides more insight that, like, there's more to expand on here, because, you know, with Doremi, a lot of the time she's the butt of the joke, but there's a real, like, insecurity behind that, and it reminds me kind of obviously, because it's a magical girl thing, I'd expect there are other character parallels, but, like, you know, me thinking back to Hugto Precure and how Nono Hana had the little arc where she's like, oh, you know, I mess up all the time, but I try really hard, but, like, I can't be, you know, I can't be, like, this perfect person or whatever, and so there's, like, I'd say self-hatred, but, you know, maybe, like, it's obviously a more, like, optimistic lens,
I think
like,
I even
characters
mentioned that
can
last
triumph
time.
in the end. And so I definitely got that from Doremi as well.
Yeah, how it is, yes. Right, no, I think I mentioned it last time, where it's just kind of a magical girl thing I've seen a lot, where characters who want to change, they want to be someone else. So I guess to recommend things, I think the same things I talked about last time is Heart Catch Precure, where Tsubomi, her name literally means blossom, and it has kind of a flower motif. She wants to blossom. She wants to become, you know, change, transform. And of course Madoka Magica, which, it's a little darker with it, but it's still very much there. And again, drawn from these other Magical Girls series, so... But yeah, no, Doremi, he was like that like that's those all those relevant episodes and the movie like it's just like I don't know when I'll if ever I'll rewatch Doremi, but I can see myself like picking out those episodes specifically, like the earlier one with the Doremi's mom, and then the movie, and then these other follow up ones. Like I could see myself just watching those as like a little arc, you know, because it's just so good.
Yeah, because I guess that was sort of a well, it's the recurring theme of this arc is like this season,
mothering, yes,
motherhood and the whole parental thing, and there were a lot of different conflicts that tied back into
How
that.
have we not even talked about Hana yet? Like the most important like thing this season. Like,
so I will say that like when we got down to the ending, I was just waiting for her to say "mama" because I remembered Hugton saying that in Hugto, and I was like, "There's a parallel here."
Well, I was gonna make a joke about because I think they even had the same director, maybe not this season, but just Doremi and Hugto Precure. So like you have Doremi raising a baby named Hana, and then like 15 years later you have Hugto Precure.
Oh my god, the
Hana
protagonist named
Hana raising a baby named Hugton or Hugumi, and so look, I'm just saying in 15 years if we have a protagonist named Hugumi raising a baby, then it's like. Maybe the baby will be called Doremi and it'll just go fucking full circle, you know? So, because I did think about that and I thought that was funny. Yeah, no, and Hana was a cute agent of chaos. So I actually did look this up because the trope kind of reminded me of Pokemon with Togepi, because Togepi kind of, like, because they both have this magic that fucks things up or saves the day, or, you know, it depends. Because in Pokemon, Togepi would use Metronome, I remember in the earlier seasons. And turns out Togepi actually happened first. So, in other words, I don't know if this is a trope that predates both or one of those things, or if it was incidental or that. But I did think of that when Hana was kind of like because she has her magic and she can just like the one episode where she haunted the school on accident, where it's the let's bring Hana to school. What could possibly go wrong? And she just like. Agent of Chaos. An adorable agent of chaos, but an agent of chaos nonetheless. And Hana was good. Like, obviously, like, the mothering stuff, like, you know, I've already babysat, so, you know, I was fairly familiar with it, and, you know, but it's, you know, it's for kids, and they don't necessarily know these things, but they might be interested in them. You know, so, you know, it was meant to be informative there. I also really liked Majo Heart. That kind, you know, I just like that whole stern, and very strict, but that's because she just cares that much, you know.
Yeah.
So she was very good.
I will say that I thought like some of the weaker parts of the season were like the very early sort of baby exams. I forget what they were called, but like some of them, the conflicts felt very. I don't know. At first, it seemed like, oh, we have to take care of these children without magic, and so it's like, okay, I get that. You know, it's not about the magic; it's about the heart behind it. But like some of the conflicts felt a little weird, and I don't remember any examples off the top of my head now. I'm trying to comb through my screen caps, but there would be like,
if you're saying early episodes, like, oh yeah, I remember those. They were last year when we watched them. So you know,
well, because I remember there being like an episode or two where I didn't really understand like what I don't know, I just didn't really like understand the conflict they were going for, and it just felt like the means through which they were executing whatever ideas they were going for weren't gelling with me. I also will say that I think this season compared to like the first season, there's definitely a lot more ideas being tossed around, because if you think about, you know, we have like the witch exam for Pop, so she's got something going on in the background. We have all the exams with Hana, and they have to take care of her. They have the episodes focusing on the classmates, which is a carryover from the first season. You get the Flat 4 episodes later and Oyaji Day, so there's conflicts there.
Yeah, like the series it's taking what it's already built on and continuing that. Like but it's also adding new stuff. Like Hana is a whole new angle to the like I said, Hana is like the most important. Like that now they're doing a flower shop instead of the regular like little making trinkets and stuff. But that's not as important as Hana. You know, you have Oyaji Day, and then he's got allies and the wizard stuff. Like there's a whole political bend, but it's still centered around Hana. Like Hana is the core thrust of the show, basically.
Yeah.
And I guess on the subject of Oyaji Day, because I remember last time you were apparently told, oh, he gets better later. Yeah, now he's a pervert and a child kidnapper. Better. I mean, I guess, like, that's less of him being a pervert, and, like, obviously he's the bad guy, so it's at his expense. Like, I did like the episodes where, like, the moments when the Flat Four would be fucking around and they'd kidnap Hana, and then they'd sort of, like, dump Hana on him, and he'd be like, what the fuck's going on? And they're like, ha, you were stealing Hana, and he's like, what the fuck? He just gets fucking bullied for no reason. It's Oyaji Day, so who gives a shit? Let him get bullied. So, you know, it was fine and fun. And there was good moments around Hana, too. Like, the one I'm remembering is with Aiko, because she was kind of, like, you know, insecure, because she doesn't have a mom in the same sense that the others do. So they sort of brought up how, like, oh, she was maybe, you know, insecure about how she was with Hana because, you know, she, you know, any failure of his, it seems different than compared to the failures of the others, because again she is the more boyish one too, because of, you know, she was raised more by her dad, so it just makes sense. See, and I guess I don't know how do you, because Aiko was your favorite last time, do you still feel that way? Or because next to Doremi, it's like when I think about what the others got, it's like, I mean, yeah, they were good, but you know, the Doremi stuff was just so standout, so it's hard for me to like. But anyway, go on.
I mean, I probably still lean towards Aiko as my favorite, although Doremi definitely did get good material this season. Really, I don't think, like, my character rankings, if I can even remember what they were, I don't think they've shuffled much, because I feel like the characters who were interesting in the first season were still interesting this season. Unfortunately, I still don't have much to say about Hazuki. I'm sorry.
Like, I can't even remember any major character stuff she got at the moment. At least, like not to say she didn't have her episodes, but it's just, like, compared to, even Ompu got, like, the Christmas episode was still really good, where it, like, shuffled, like, 4 different character plot lines, and I'm like, hey, that's cool. You know, like, you had Aiko with her 2 parents, and Ompu wanting to see her dad, and, you know, Doremi and Hazuki, and Doremi, in her desperate plea for steak, continues to make mistakes, you could say. Literally missing steak. Bang! Shoot me. That was bad, because it was bad. No, yeah, like, I can't even remember anything to say about Hazuki this season, other than, like, she's still cute, and I can think of some gags, like, in the movie when the wishes were being granted, and the SOS were like, I wish we were funny, and like, everyone's laughing at them, except Hazuki's like, what the fuck, this sucks, and they're like... But just, you know, just the way but that was a running gag she'd had, and they just messed with it, and yeah. I
mean, like, I know in like the finale, like, she had the thing that tied back to you know, like, the thing with her own mother, and how, you know, her mother's kind of overprotective, and she's always trying to get Hazuki to do these things, and Hazuki can't really, like, stand up for herself. But I didn't feel like there was much of a resolution to that yet. So yeah, I don't know. What I did also think was interesting, just as far as, like, things happening in this season, I really liked how, with the introduction of Akatsuki, we turned that, you know, the recurring joke of, oh, Doremi always falls in love with these silly people, and she can never get that boyfriend, just like she can never get her steak. But, like, we turned that recurring gag into, like, a recurring plot point, because, like, Akatsuki, you know, becomes a recurring character, but it's also, like, a way to, you know, introduce the conflict where they're trying to kidnap Hana, but it's also, like, turning, like, a potential character flaw from Doremi into something to be exploited, and, you know, it went somewhere. Yeah. I feel like, though, there's still, like, maybe, because with how the season ended, with, like, the witch and the wizard stuff, I'd imagine there's still going to be more there, but now they're allies, so it wasn't really, like, a situation where...
Or I was going to say, if Season 3 continues the trend with Season 2, then it's going to, like, take what this season has and expand on things, you know? So maybe we will see more of the wizards and stuff. Because, like, yeah, because, you know, you had this sort of, like, the whole stuff with the divides between the worlds, where, you know, the witch world took land from the wizard world, so they were suffering, and then they cut off contact with the human world, but the Ojamajos are kind of the bridge to the human world, and maybe reconnecting the worlds and such. And they help the relationships between the wizard world and the witch world. So, like, yeah, that could be something expanded on. And of course, like, with the Flat Four themselves, like, they came in to help kidnap Hana, but then they stopped. They didn't really care about that by the end of it. Like they'd go in and then they started to care more about the the interacting with the humans, like what their interest, like what they could gain, I guess, from that interaction between worlds, I suppose. And then they end up becoming allies. Yeah, they were fine.
There's a degree to which it mostly just boiled down to girls are cute.
Basically.
I did think that there are episodes where I feel like the reason why I was like less put off by them than with like Oyajide's original episodes, like the whole thing of him being like the pervert character, it definitely, like, he was just this little goblin guy. It was just kind of like a thing that happened, and it felt like it could be cut from the episode and not much would really, I don't know. But like this season, I don't know, I felt like there was more of like an idea, or not idea, but like it wasn't just like, oh, Oyajide is on screen, he's a pervert, that's the joke. Like there was more of like more going on with him. And I guess like with the Flat Four as well, like they were definitely not great people, but like character-wise they were serving as like interesting foils to the people they were against. Like you had the episode with, I don't remember their names, but the sporty one who's like, oh, I'm gonna beat Aiko in a match, and he keeps losing, right, and keeps being a dope. But then at the end he's like, oh no, we can be rival, or like Aiko acknowledges him or whatever. So it's like, yeah, we can be rivals, and there's a thing there. The one guy who was with Ompu, there was like something of a message there about like, we learn about like Ompu, what sort of commitment does it take to be an idol? Like he's just this facetious guy who's like,
I guess you could see it, or what I'm kind of thinking about right now is like they're wizards, they use magic, and like they even mentioned that like the Ojamajos are still like trainees, so their magic isn't as quick, like that's why they need the Potrine, is to be able to like fight on the same level as Oyajide, sort of. So with the wizards, like again, I guess it's kind of doing that like reliance on magic versus, because like I don't remember their names either, even though like the two you just mentioned were also the most notable ones to me, because the one who wanted to beat Aiko, like magic can't grant him victory, so, and Aiko's just better than it, so he was wanting to find out how to win, where Ampu, the guy with Ampu, he wanted, he's again like they have to use their own natural skills rather than their magic. Where
because he thought he didn't have to like train for anything. Yes. But Ampu, shut that down. So, it was like, you're disrespecting all the work that we have to do to become a professional. And he's like, oh, I have to get better. And it was kind of the same with the sports guy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how they, like, in general, not only how they contrast the Ojamajos in season 2, but how they contrast the Ojamajos in season 1 before they sort of grew. I wonder, like, but I'd have to think about that more. But that was just a potential way to read into it that I just, obviously I didn't have that context watching season 1. But
I do think that my least favorite of the Flat Four was the one who was like Hazuki's rival.
I don't remember anything about him, honestly.
He seemed to have like this focus on like emotions and like, oh, humans have like these superpowers, but like from a sense like they can have feelings and empathy and stuff. But he just came off as kind of creepy with like his focus on Hazuki. I didn't like him. But he also had like the same thing going on, obviously.
See, I swear I watched the show, I just don't remember anything about him right now. There was like a character
flaw, and it's like, oh, but they get better in the end, and they're able to kind of turn the rivalry with the Ojamajos into something productive, and they become better people. But yeah, for the most part, he just kind of came off as more creepy than the other two. And then I guess with Akatsuki, he had we find out he's a prince of the wizard world. I thought it was interesting, the reveal at the end where it's like, oh, the wizard world has like 20 people or something. Like it was a very small number. I don't remember exactly what it was. It was like
it's barely. It's like basically it's not even a city. It's basically like a big family. Honestly, right? Like as far as size wise, it's just not. Yeah, it's. Yeah, that was it. I thought that was interesting too. Like, wait, the wizard world is like fucking a couple dozen people. Yeah. I feel like I had something to add there, but I don't remember what it was. Because I can definitely talk about, like, probably two of my favorite episodes. Because, like, in general, like, yeah, the season was on motherhood. And, like, there were episodes with, like, some of the other parents, like, in particular, like, the Christmas stuff with Ampu's dad. And there was, like, an episode with Doremi's dad and the fishing, that one. But overall, like, I felt like most of the episodes were on the moms. and of course with the girls as mothering. So I did kind of want to talk about this because there are the two episodes I rewatched, and there was a particular reason I wanted to rewatch them. So yeah, this is the first time I'm talking about this publicly. I already told Mathwiz beforehand because I realized I'd probably have to talk about it. Well, like I guess one strength of the show in general is like normally I'm very much I do think like when people talk about like relatability, maybe it's kind of overrated, but Doremi like has done things that I find relatable.
Yeah.
Like we talked about last season, and so what I kind of have to talk about is, again, with motherhood, like I kind of wanted to talk about my relationship with my mom because so basically about 2 months ago, like to the date, like it was July 21st, we're recording this on the 20th, so like 2 months ago to the day almost, she passed away. And so I had to rewatch 2 episodes in particular because one of them was the Mother's Day episode.
Yeah.
And
that episode was so good.
Yeah, see, and the other one was the episode with Majo Rika and Majo Ririka, Riko's mom. And so, like, so the Mother's Day episode, so I feel I rewatched these two because before I'd watched them, and my mom, I watched them when my mom was alive, and I rewatched them more recently after she'd passed, and because they already made me cry. Okay?
Yeah, because I remember, like, the Mother's Day episode, I remember watching it, like, shortly after Mother's Day. Like, that was about...
Yeah.
It was just something I remember because, you know, with how, like, our episodes were broken up, and watching it kind of infrequently, that one just kind of happened to almost fall at the, the time.
And that was a really good episode. Like, rewatching it, I noticed when Reika said, "Let's draw our moms." Like, Yada is right behind her, and he makes like a face. What was his actual other name? Yada's like a surname, Masaru. Like I noticed that on the rewatch because, like, of course, because he was also important to the episode's conflict.
Yeah, I really liked how that episode focused on. Sorry to like steal your thunder, but I know you'll have more to say about the Majo Rika episode.
I will definitely. Yes, that's the one I really want to talk about. But go ahead.
But this episode, I really liked how it focused on the people without, the people who have either lost a mother or, the one I forget which one it was, but one of them had like an adopted mother.
Masaru had Masaru and Nakayama was the girl. Both of them had lost their birth mothers, but Masaru had gotten like his dad remarried, and so he had 2 moms, but one of them had passed away, and then Nakayama had no mom, and so anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, I really liked. I don't know, because like when I think of like children's shows and I think about like holidays, I think like, oh, it's a good time and everybody, like it's focusing on like the good aspect of the holiday, I guess. But we're like with Mother's Day, the fact that they decided to focus on 2 characters who had lost their mothers and had that sort of, it wasn't like a happy celebratory day for them. There was more of like like not necessarily like taking pity on them, but just kind of like focusing on that side of things where, what was the specific line? Because like you have the teacher get in on it later where she talks about skipping on Father's Day.
Right, and because her dad had passed away, so she was able to connect with them on that level.
And there was the one line where it's like, whenever others tried to comfort me, I would get even sadder when I remember that, they weren't around anymore. And so it's like, it could have taken this lens and been like, oh, these people have lost members of their family, and that's sad, so we should be sad for them. But like it didn't do that. It focused on more of like I don't know, like it's
no. I
like,
think to
conveying that perspective well, I guess.
To make a comparison, the Christmas episode of this season, like it had all the characters focus on their interactions with their families, what they have. Like it's kind of exactly what you were giving an example earlier. Again, this Mother's Day episode focused on what they didn't have, they had not, so that just to make a comparison using this show, but I guess I'll talk about my perspective on the episode because like I thought it would make me.
There's also that one line at the end. Okay, but yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The ending of this episode was not fucking fair. In all honesty, like it made me cry a lot before, And rewatching it after my mom passed away, like, I don't think the one part I related to more was when they were talking about, like, oh, like, people just, oh, I'm sorry about it, just the kind of, like, condolences thing and just getting tired of it after a while.
Yeah, that's the lens I was trying to think of, but I couldn't word it right.
Because that's something I've felt in just these last couple months. Like, just a week or so ago, my mom bowled a lot, and she had a group of bowling friends, like, they'd go to eat lunch, even when because she was fighting cancer for the last 2 years. And even when she couldn't bowl, she would still go to the bowling alley to hang out and go eat lunch with them because that was her friends. So a little while ago, my dad found like a key, and it turned out it was to her bowling locker. So I had to go and empty the locker, and it's basically closed. Like there's someone there for maintenance and stuff, but because of COVID. But so what happened was like I just walk in the door to she lets me in, and she's like, "Oh, sorry for your loss," and I'm just like. Like mentally, of course, I'm just like, I don't need to hear.
Because
times.
It's like you're like you want to say something, like you want to try and be supportive in some way, but it's in a way that it's like it calls attention to the
right
whatever, and it's like at that point, why bother? Almost like maybe not why bother. Like it's like good intentions, but not. I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, it's also I just don't know how to respond. It's like, yeah, she's dead. What do you want me to do? Like, I don't want to cry anymore. I've already done all of that or most of that. Like, so when they talked about that in the show, like I related to more. Though in general, like I didn't relate to the whole thing because a lot of it was like they died when they were young, and so they like with Nakayama. She didn't cry because she didn't have a mom. She was crying because she was struggling to remember her and what she looked like, and she was afraid that maybe I'll forget my mom. And then this is where they fucking cheated when the girls, the Ojamajos, gave her a magic flower that showed her mom at the grave. And mommy is always protecting you from heaven, and I just like both times I watched. I'm getting teary eyed right now. Like
it's unfair.
It's not. You can't do. My heart. My heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely relate to like the like, oh, I was sad because my memories of her were so fuzzy because sometimes I have a bad memory with stuff from my childhood, and so like it was definitely like not something I share, but like I understand from at least that lens, and that's like
gotcha.
that hit me more I think than the other stuff they were getting at.
Well, I think I remember you mentioning to me like a death in the family, but I won't go into any detail if you don't want to. But I just remember you have experienced some kind of loss with certain family members, right? Even if it's not literally your mom.
That was well, like this past year, I think my great-grandfather passed away, but like even before that, like a year before, my great-grandmother had passed away, and so like there was about a year where I was just kind of like watching him kind of, deteriorate mentally and stuff, and it was, it happens. It is what it is.
Yeah,
but that's probably like the only. I don't know. That's probably like the only way I could relate to it from like that personal perspective, I guess. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But also at the ending when, because there was obviously the ending at the grave, but there was also the thing with Masaru where he like buys a flower and brings it to his adopted mother, and it's like, because he's also like he's generally like the cool kid at the back of the class who's always like too good for, or not too
I'm
good
cool
for,
and
like,
detached and a little bit edgy,
Yeah, but
Sasuke
then
is my favorite Naruto character. Yeah, I gotcha.
But you get like this episode where he has the moment where there's like the emotional vulnerability, and there's also the part where he like blushes from something that Doremi says.
Because he mentioned, I think he sees his adopted mom, and he reacts, and he's like, "Oh, you do love your mom," and he like, or something like that. He's just blushing and getting awkward and embarrassed, and it's adorable because he's the edgy one, right?
Yeah. But then you also kind of get something in like a less, like in a more comedic lens, like in the Halloween episodes or whatever, where they do the spooky stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I'm not scared, but I'll stick with you, Hazuki, because you're scared, so I'll be." And
that episode was goofy. I think that's the one where they go into the Halloween, that might be a different one. I was thinking of the one in the summer where they tell that like everyone gets like lost in the forest.
And that's the one I was thinking of.
Okay,
because they did an episode like that in the first season too.
Yes, but well, I just remember that one because not just it was like it's Reika's kind of a snot sometimes, so it's funny for things to be at her expense. But also at the end of the episode where she like wants to sleep with her mom because she's scared is adorable. That was adorable. But anyway, so now to go to the other episode that really, I rewatched this one and I related to it even more. Like it
Now,
just,
I
mostly
forget,
because
did
like
this one come before or after
this
the
one
Mother's
came
Day
before.
episode?
This was episode
Okay.
9. The Mother's Day episode was episode 15.
All
So. Like, so this one already made me cry, but like, cause again, with my mom passing, I was thinking just way more about my relationship with my mom in general. So one thing I hadn't really noted down before, but I realized like, oh, fuck. It involved Majorika. Cause I realized that, oh, Majorika is basically a lot like Doremi. She's a failure. Like, think about it for a sec. So, you know, she got the Mahodo in season 1, which we found out it was through lottery. It was randomly. It wasn't anything she did. Then she, you know, she opened it, didn't seem to be super successful from like the little glimpse we got of it, and Doremi of all fucking people realizes that she's a witch and turns her into a witch frog. So she's eternally sort of bearing this like failure as a witch. And so then, and I've already mentioned Doremi is like the most relatable character in the show for me, and so now I'm connecting Majorika to Doremi. So then you get this episode where they go to, you know, they instead of going to Della for big business, they'll go to locally sourced goods and they try to find Ririka, who you know, Rika's being kind of catty about, and then, like, basically, like, the one contrast I noticed, because, like, they're going to fix Hana's hiccups, her magic hiccups.
Yeah.
And, like, so every time she hiccups, like, she creates something, you know? Sometimes, you know, not always good thing, you know, like, she makes, like, what is it, like, a wash pan or something that, like, falls on Aiko's head for it, which is, like, it's, like, a visual gag thing in a lot of Japanese humor. I don't know where it came from, but it's, like, you know, it just, like, falls on their head, and it's, like, haha, funny. I don't know. She's, and you know, Hana's this baby with infinite potential. She can do anything. Like, that's kind of the you know, so she, of course, she creates things. But when Majorika gets magical hiccups, she only destroys things. Like, there's a chandelier that she hiccups and it falls, or she shatters windows, because she's a fuck up. Because she's a failure, and she wanted to hide her identity from her mom because her mom might be sad or disappointed in her, but it didn't matter because she still loves her either way. And
I definitely got more of an appreciation for that episode when you kind of explained it that way.
And I think I cried more watching it the second time because now I was connecting it to me and my mom and how, like, you know, oh, she talked about how she wanted grandkids. Whoops, I'm 30, never even been in a relationship. You know, I was the first, you know, neither of them, like, my dad got a high school diploma equivalent. My mom never graduated, but I did. And then I did nothing for a year, and then I worked in fucking retail for 5 years. So it's like, you know, I've always kind of felt like they've had these expectations for me that I've sort of never been able to live up to. So, you know, feeling like a failure. And, you know, connecting to Majorika and Doremi for being failures, and then seeing, you know, because I did, like, have that realization after she passed that, you know, I was a failure, but she did still love me. And, I'm getting a little moist in the eyes right now again. Like, it's just a really good episode, and it really hit me hard, especially on the rewatch where I cried more, I think. Because it's just... it hit pretty close to home in a way that I don't think a lot of it else has hit me, at least not in even in the show, like, because those shows, it's a great show, and like that episode really stood out to me, I think, personally speaking, and so I did want to talk about it. Like, it almost feels kind of disingenuous to not talk about, like, you know, when I watch a show about motherhood and my mom passes during the show, and it, like, recontextualizes how the house, even just this one episode, like, hit me, then, I just felt like I had to talk about it. And, I know, like, if you ever got comments like, oh my god, I'm sorry your mom died, I'm not going to respond.
Kind of give you sort of, like, an avenue to kind of, I don't know, express those thoughts, or maybe it helped you recontextualize something or whatever. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's cool.
Yeah, no, and that's a strength of art that I always like. Is I'm also worried for other things. Like, I think it was literally like without, like, right when my mom, around when she passed, I was watching. It was like, I was watching Gosei Sentai Die Ranger, and like a character's mom died, and I was like, I didn't feel anything or note anything particular. But then like a little later, when the Red Ranger's like, oh, but she'll always be with you or in your heart or something like that, and I just like start getting choked up, and I'm like, fuck, like just the way that having a dead parent is going to recontextualize a lot of media. I'm afraid for Place Further Than the Universe.
You haven't seen that yet?
I already have it as a 10. I've watched it twice, but now it's gonna hurt me even more. It's gonna hurt me even more, Mathwiz.
Oh no, the laptop. No.
What about all the dead moms in One Piece? They're gonna hurt me even more. So just a lot of that kind of stuff I've thought about, just how like, you know, just even just dead parents in general, like it's gonna, what if I read Fairy Tail where Mashima, his dad passed away, so he like,
no.
Like, you know, it's not a mom, but it's still like a parent, and it's like, just that kind of,
Fairy Tail was a 10 out of 10 all along.
Fairy Tail. Why Fairy Tail? Anyway. I did have one more thing to talk, because like we kind of brought it up earlier about the ending, because I don't know, I was just super in, like, you know, them as mothers, and you know, willing to, you know, be, you know, not die, but you know, lose everything in, you know, 1,000 Years Sleep to protect Hana.
Yeah, the finale was pretty strong.
And like, yeah, you mentioned it, but you were kind of expecting it. But when she's like saying all their names, but then and Mama, and it's just like, you know, I was waiting for it, but I think I got a little like teary-eyed when it happened anyway.
Yeah, from like the moment that they introduced, and this ended up like you know, it started with like the exam, and it's like, oh, they have to say words, and then it ends up, you know, spiraling into like a multiple episode conflict. But as soon as they introduce like the baby has to say a word, I'm like, I know where this is going. I've seen Hugto. I know.
Yeah, and then there's also the conflict with the sort of witch who created the forest, where, you know, she went to the human world and she experienced loss. She fell in love with someone who died, and she birthed his child who also died. And so you have like, which in general kind of ties to motherhood in general, where it's like, not only are you, you know, creating a child who you might lose if like the worst happens, but also will, and almost if that, you know, if that doesn't happen, then they're likely to lose you, you know. So it's like you're creating someone who will also experience loss. So like, you know, the Doremi, the Ojamajos kind of like are willing to accept that sort of aspect of life, where the witch rejected it and created this cursed forest and hid away the flower that would have helped Hana. So you know, just good conflict and resolution to the whole. You know, they lose their magic again. You know, we talked about this. They'll get it back. It's fine. It works for the series and like the messages, and you know,
what I really liked about that ending though, was when like they were having a conversation with Majorika during the credits, and they're like, oh, sorry, we can't turn you back. And she's like, oh, I think I'm starting to like this form. And then they have a good laugh, and it's like, character development.
And then with the line, she's like, well, if I turn it back into a witch frog, I have to say goodbye to you guys. And it's like, and it's like she's not just like fine with being a witch. She's fine with her place in the world, if that means, you know, yeah, her being a witch frog and this sort of like failure as a witch, but also she's fine with being, yeah, this. Oh, that's another thing I want to mention about Riko being a failure, is that she's not a good teacher. She's not really a good manager of the Mahojo, like, yeah. But she still likes her connection with these girls, like, you know, and she wants to be with them on some level, and she's good. She's good old lady, old crabby frog lady.
You were talking about, like, not being, like, a good manager of things, and I just remember the one joke where she was, like, eating some sort of, like, snack, and, like, Hana wanted it, and was, like, chasing her around, and she's like, no, it's mine! It's like, you're not being a good influence.
Imagine, like, because she's also small like a baby, so it's funnier. It's just a really good show. I think I'm about done with things to say, though.
I will say that for my screen caps, unfortunately, the subs are old enough that they're hard subbed, so I couldn't turn them off. No! So I was, you know, some of the things I'm like, well, I have to screen cap it, so it's just gonna have dialogue at the bottom because I can't remove it. Although I think I don't remember how much progress they've made, but I know the Doremi subgroup, they had gone back and like resubbed the first season by the time we had covered it.
Okay. Yeah,
I thought I saw that they resubbed the movie for Sharp, and I think when I had first downloaded it, I had like looked up their site or whatever and saw that they were like working on it, but I don't know how much. I don't know how much progress they've made with it.
Yeah, now that's been a year, so whenever we do get to, because we might not watch season 3 right away, you know, if only because like Math you jumped into Sharp right away. and here we are, almost a year later. So
I have no expectations that
yeah.
we'll go slow enough that the subgroup will catch up to us, because obviously subtitling anime takes a lot of time, and I don't envy them. But I appreciate that they're still doing it. But maybe if by the time any of you listening to this get to Doremi Sharp, maybe it'll be the subs will be redone.
I mean, I hope. Well, they would listen to this with all the spoilers, but
Oh, you're right. I don't know why It's fine.
No, so maybe it'll help someone anyway. But I guess to talk about what we might talk about next time, Mathis has already started catching up to Star Twinkle Precure, which is over. I'm still farther than her. I think last I checked, I stopped at episode 24 or 25, and last I checked, she was on 21. So our current plan is to eventually finish and discuss Star Twinkle Precure, kind of keep on with that. I don't know what we'll be doing after that. If it'll be season 3 of Doremi, if it'll be something else, if it'll be something else that's not Magical Girls at all. We talked about a few ideas. We'll see what happens, but Star Twinkle seems to be next. Hopefully it just doesn't take us a year to watch. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, with the way I watch things, who knows? It comes and goes.
Yep, so I guess that about covers it. A good season. I gave it 8 out of 10, where I'd give the first season a 7. I saw Matthews gave it the same score, but
I was close.
Gotcha.
I was really close. I gave the movie an 8 because that's kind of how I was feeling for the season really at the time, and the movie was a good distillation of everything that Sharp does well. But then the ending, I don't know, the ending didn't give me 8 out of 10 vibes. So I'm it's probably I imagine that when we watch the next season, I will probably by that point elevate the score, and then I will retroactively go back.
Continues to get incrementally better, then yeah, that makes sense. And I've thought about that too. Is if I rewatch the whole show, having because I've seen I remember I was stalking on Mal. I sometimes used to check people who were friends with me, and I remember I seeing one guy. He started Ojamajo Doremi and he gave it a 7, and then I checked later, and his avatar was now Ojamajo Doremi, and it was a favorite anime of all time. And I'm okay, what does this show do later? I'm afraid, because we have 2 seasons and the OVA series left, so a little bit. So we're a little less than halfway technically, because the last 2 seasons are another 100 episodes, and then there's the OVAs, which is another 13 episodes. So. We'll figure out how to go about those when we do.
Well, I'm definitely looking for, because I know that Mamoru Hosoda at least has 1 episode directed. I don't know if he has more, but that's not until the last season. At least as far as I'm aware.
And I've heard the OVAs are really good in particular. So
I was looking back into the comments, and I saw that that's what was being debated about.
Yes, which we talked
about the watch
right,
order.
Right.
Because technically they were released after the final season, but chronologically
they take place during season 3. So one of them maybe is best to watch as the last episode or something like that. It's a whole thing that we'll figure out. We'll probably just do it in the cleanest way for a podcast. I don't know. So maybe that means watching the OVAs after it's done. I don't know, because if they take place in season 3, I don't it should be. I don't know. We will have that context. So, I
definitely understand now. Revisiting it, it basically comes down to what do you want your last experience with Doremi to be, which obviously it doesn't matter at all, because there's the new film coming out soon, or has it already come out? The new
that's our last experience with Doremi. I didn't get a response
from that, so I don't know what happened.
Yep. Oh,
I made a joke and it wasn't funny. Yay. Discord had cut Kraftsdorf off here, so he did hear my joke and laugh, but I didn't hear him laugh, so now the ending audio makes no sense. I'm just like Doremi. I'm the butt of the joke.
Maybe I was trying to talk, so I didn't quite hear what you said. Anyway, that sounds like a good place to call it. A good discussion. I didn't expect it to be as long as it got, but it got long. So yeah, thank you for listening. And I guess we'll see you next time with possibly
Tune in next time, whenever that'll be.
That's the mystery. That's the Nono show for you. The mystery. It's when's the next episode coming out? Nobody knows. Nobody knows.